When we think of media, we often think of news media or new technologies, Fox News or CNN or the television or the internet. And there are good reasons for that, and we will get to those. But media at its most basic level is not just about the modern flow of information in the digital age. Rather, media is the plural form of the Latin word for medium. We're using it here not to mean the middle, but to mean a conduit, a channel, or a vehicle. A medium is only the middle insofar as it spans two different things. A medium is something that mediates something else. Media, the plural of the word medium, but sometimes is also used as a collective singular, are most basically conduits for human communication. But human communication is understood in a broad and complex way here. Roger Perry, in his book The Ascent of Media, writes that a medium is the vehicle by which words, images, information, and ideas are distributed. Content is mediated if it reaches us through the agency of a medium. Notice a few things here. First, multiple different things are mediated or distributed. Words, images, information, and ideas. But all of these have their root in human thought. A human came up with the words, the images, the information, or the ideas that are to be distributed. The umbrella that's over all of the words, images, information, and ideas is human thought. Second, Perry writes that content is mediated. The noun here has become a verb. Mediated content is that which has passed through a medium. This is significant because just about all content is mediated in some way. Our own thoughts, words, images, and information and ideas might exist inside of our head without a medium, but to communicate or distribute those to another person or persons, we need a medium. Think of it this way. Here you are. You are a person who has smart thoughts and ideas. Those thoughts and ideas exist inside your head. But to get them outside of your head to another person, you have to mediate them. We cannot hook up our brains together and transmit our thought directly to one another. One way to mediate your smart ideas is to say them out loud. Speech is a medium for communicating thought. It uses air and vocal cords to produce a sound that can be received by another person. But what if the person that you want to communicate with is not right beside you? A limitation or constraint of speech as a medium is that it requires co-presence, two people being in the same time and same space together. In the days before FaceTime and Zoom, geography and time limited speech. But if you make a physical material version of your words by writing them down, you can collapse time and physical proximity. Handwriting is able to make a more permanent record of your thought than speech does. You can even skip the act of speaking by writing the message down without speaking it. Both speech and handwriting are understood to be proximate or very close to your interior thoughts, and this is why we value the handwriting of our friends and loved ones. It's closely connected to their thought and to their being. But what if you don't want your thought closely connected to your being? Or what if you're not writing to a friend or a loved one? Or what if you want multiple exact copies of the same message? Print formalizes handwriting and allows for exact replication. When we handwrite a document, that version is wholly unique. Even if we handwrite the same message 2 times, the messages do not look exactly the same as one another because the handwriting is always going to be a little bit different. Print allows 2 or more messages to look exactly the same and be replicated exactly. It also allows for different people's thoughts to be visualized the same way. If you and I use the same font and write the same words, there's no way to tell who wrote which version. In this way, print is a formalization of handwriting, and handwriting stands behind or is the basis or the medium of printed text. This is one of the most, if not the most influential media theorists of the 20th century, Marshall McLuhan. He had some smart ideas. This was one of them. The content of any medium is always another medium. This is the idea that we've been talking about. Media are containers of other media down to the base medium of human thought. It's a Russian nesting doll's idea of media. Thought is the content of speech, which is the content of handwriting, which is the content of print, which is the content of books. But this is only one progression of media. Not all Russian nesting dolls are exactly the same. Different media, different dolls. If we again start with human thought, that thought might not be spoken, but depicted as an image. And images are the content of other media, like film, which also uses other media such as speech and music. Films can then be put onto television or various kinds of screens. So media are made up of and affected by a combination of a number of other media. In addition, media are deeply impacted by other factors. Three of the most prominent in the so-called PET theory of media are politics, economics, and technology. So while we're on the topic of technology, let's start with that one. New technologies create new possibilities with respect to media and how human thought can be mediated. But this doesn't mean that the new technologies always do away with the old technologies. Oftentimes, old technologies continue to exist alongside new ones. Print books and ebooks, for example. But new technologies also incorporate features of the old technologies. For example, you can bookmark ebooks and even digitally flip through their pages. New technologies don't exist in a vacuum, though, and various economic and political or power dynamics affect both the technology and any given medium. People who have access to power and money are often the people who deeply affect how media are utilized, and this has been true throughout history. But it's not just people who are affecting the use of media. Media are also affect us as humans, how we live in the world, and how we communicate with one another. Another smart thought that Marshall McLuhan had was that the medium is the message. In fact, this is probably the most influential and famous thing that he said, or even wrote. Notice that I have him saying it here in the thought bubble, but he also wrote this in his book, The Medium is the Message. So both media, the saying, the words, the spoken speech, and the writing of the same thing exist side by side. Media oftentimes exist with one another. So the medium itself, in McLuhan's mind, is more effective than the message or the content that that particular medium contains. For example, the ability to write reshapes how we think. Writing becomes an extension of our brain. When we write things down, we don't have to remember as much. Literate societies that use writing as a basic cultural tool function very differently than those that do not. And those that don't use writing, by the way, are called primary oral cultures. When we extend this to things like the internet, we find that the media of digital technology has connected us as humans more so than we ever have been in history before. Marshall McLuhan died before the internet was ubiquitous, but he foresaw our connectedness in things like the telephone and spoke of this connectedness as the global village. So, to summarize and throw in some new ideas here. Media contain other media. There's no such thing as pure unmediated information. Media works like Russian nesting dolls, but there are all different kinds of Russian nesting dolls, all different kinds of media that are made up of combinations of different media. The fundamental building blocks for these combinations, according to Roger Perry, are speech, image, music, and writing. And I think we can go one level deeper than Perry does and say that all four of these building blocks are expressions of human thought. As media and their building blocks are constantly being reconfigured and influenced by politics, economics, and new technologies, media forms are evolving. But this doesn't mean that old media forms always die out. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get adapted and subsumed into new media forms. And these new media forms are going to change, but they're also going to include features of their predecessors. These various reconfigurations of media and their building blocks affect the way that we live and operate in the world, both as individuals and as a society. They also deeply affect the way that we experience the message that any respective medium contains. We cannot simply pluck out the message and hold it out as pure message or idea because the message is always tied up with the medium. There is no such thing as purely unmediated content.